Jay. So college football, as you know, in most conferences has begun. In particular, the Big 12, returning OU, who made it to the college football playoff last year. OU coming off a loss to Kansas State in Norman last week. Can't quite remember what the score was, but they dropped to 18 going into Iowa State this past Saturday, and they proceed to lose to Iowa State 37-30, losing back-to-back games for the first time since
in 21 years, so 1999.
21 years have not lost back-to-back, falling out of the top 25 in college football for the first time since 2016.
Yep.
But just something that's only happened once or twice over that same 21-year period, we'll say.
Yep.
So, obviously, Jay, we definitely have our fingers on the pulse of Sooner Nation and the thoughts and feelings about what has gone on not just last week, this week, and what it all means. So, Jay, how did this happen? How did the Sooners lose 2 in a row? How are they 1-2? What is going wrong with this team?
So I defer to the college football and OU expert that I know, RJ Young, on Twitter and YouTube or whatnot. That's now at ESPN Radio. He talks about how the one thing we can't blame is Spencer Rattler. He's like, if you watch the game, you'd understand it's not him. The problem that OU has is something that it's a very rare thing that OU goes through. They have no running backs. They have no run game. They don't have a single running back that averages more than 4 yards a carry. They have no 5 yard per carry running backs. And that's not something that OU is used to having. I mean, think about the plethora of backs we've seen out of there. Hell, we had Kennedy Brooks, you had Trey Sermon before that. Just going back the list of all these running backs that OU's always had. They've always, if anything, OU's always had a running game. Mm-hmm. They've always had one of the most explosive offenses in the country. That's the thing that's always propelled them through the Big 12 and propelled them through into the college football playoff.
Yes.
Because they have such a great run game. They ain't got it this year. And he pointed that out, and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? You're right. They got young backs. It's like, this is something that Lincoln Riley was always was really good as an offensive guru. They're missing that key component. And then, of course, Alex Grinch is trying his hardest, but that defense is still pretty atrocious. They just haven't got to the point where they're going to be dominant yet. Now, I have still said that I'm going to give him 3 years on it because you can see a difference in the defenses since he's been there. It's just not at at par at the level you want. They're not. They're hitting a bogey right now. They were triple bogeying out to the point where their handicap was probably like minus 50 or 100. But they're hitting bogeys now. I think they're going to move closer to par and potentially get closer to the birdie stage in the next year as he's bringing in better recruits. A culture change for them takes time, especially on the defensive side. And they've got to, unfortunately, filter out the former Stoops guys and really bring in nothing but his guys. They're young. Me and my buddy talked about this last year. He said that OU this year is going to be okay. The year after, when they have juniors and seniors and those junior transfers are in there and everybody really is clicking around Grinch's setup, that's when OU is going to be a problem. So for me, it's about next year. What are you thinking about all of this craziness?
Well, one of the things I like to do after a game is go to the box score, because the box score, it doesn't tell you everything, but it tells you something. I had not thought about the issues with the running game, I guess because the passing game is still functioning somewhat where it needs to. Right. Even though I know Rattler's young, third game as a starter, et cetera. But it definitely is defensively, because when you have one running back, B. Hall, whoever that is, who has 28 carries for 139, 2 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards a carry. And then, this was the most interesting part, they had 13 receptions for 282 yards on a 21.7 average, meaning that the secondary is giving up big plays. So the front seven is not stopping the run. The secondary is not stopping the pass, and guys are getting running lanes, yak upon yak. It makes me think of what we just said about the Dallas Cowboys. Right. In terms of, this doesn't happen if you're getting, consistent effort. I mean, all these guys are tough. I mean, they're football players, so they're tough. But I guess toughness in the sense of being able to make a statement to the offense, being able to intimidate, being able to use fear as a tool to affect the psyche of the offense that you're facing. Yeah. So I don't believe for a second that this Iowa State offense nor the Kansas State offense had any fear whatsoever that they weren't going to be able to do what they wanted to do once they got into rhythm, and that's exactly what happened. So I don't know if this – I mean, you mentioned just him getting the right recruits in and getting those recruits to sort of be veteran recruits, be juniors and seniors. So I'm sure that plays a part in it as well. I don't know how much of it is his scheme either, but – kind of unlike Dallas, yes, with his OU team, it is the defense, but even the offense is not functioning at a peak level, and primarily, like you said, because of the run. And oftentimes when you see teams like this that throw the ball really well and have for years, part of it is because they have a fantastic run game. Like you go back to the LA Rams when they had Todd Gurley, when his knees were where they needed to be, that was part of the reason why they were so hard to stop, is because you have to focus so much attention on Todd Gurley that you lose attention on what's happening in the passing game.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. If OU doesn't get a consistent run game, teams are going to start to figure out certain things that's going to make it more difficult for OU to be able to pass the ball.
Yeah, so looking at their running game from last game, you had T.J. Pledger, who had 11 carries for 47 yards, Seth McGowan, who's the freshman, 12 carries for 47 yards, and Rattler had 9 carries for 20. So I misquoted on that. Seth McGowan for the season is averaging 5.3. He has 34 carries for 181, but he's a freshman. He's not really getting I guess you have no choice but to now just hand him the ball and just say, dude, do something.
Like anything, do something.
Just figure it out. I mean, Dallas, Texas boy, we need to figure something out. And so this is the year where OU is just going to have to look in the mirror and ask themselves, are we going to be ready for next year when things potentially are back to normal? I get that this is a weird year. Mm-hmm. Like I said before, I haven't paid much attention to college football because even looking at the rankings, because everybody ain't even playing.
Right.
Hell, Michigan's ranked 20th and they ain't played a game yet. You know what I'm saying? Wisconsin's in like the top 20, and they haven't played a game yet. So it's weird seeing all these Big Ten and Pac-12 teams in the rankings that are in the rankings, and they haven't even touched the field yet, so we have no clue. And then we don't have the cross-conference games to really measure who's what. You know what I'm saying? Like I was hoping, my Volunteers are 14th in the country and 12th in the coaches poll. I'm like, what? How? But then you've got BYU, you got Wisconsin, BYU, and Oregon 14, 15, and 17. It's like Oregon ain't played nobody.
Right.
Wait, they literally have not played anybody. So it's weird. It's weird trying to figure out college football, and most of the people out here ain't touching any games.
So from that standpoint, then, what you're saying is that OU being unranked, even after 2 bad losses, it really isn't as meaningful because not everybody is playing. So these polls, they really don't possess much meaning anyway in terms of evaluating. Outside of like the top 4, top 5. So, Clemson, yeah, they're up there. So is Alabama, et cetera.
Right. But Ohio State's number 6, and they ain't playing no games.
Yeah, right.
Right, and they got 2 first-place votes, even though this is considered Ohio State's greatest team, like probably ever, the way that they're assembled. But yeah, for me, and we talked about this about the NFL, about preseason and how important the preseason is, in my personal opinion, because it gives you the opportunity to really evaluate people. College football is missing their preseason, which is these cupcakes getting the crap kicked out of them. That's the thing, except for the Sun Belt beating the crap out of these Big 12 teams,
right,
which tell you just how bad Big 12 teams are when it comes to being prepared. We're missing that for teams like OU and stuff to gel themselves and figure out who's going to play or not. Kennedy Brooks isn't even playing this year, and he's still on the roster. Mm-hmm. He would have been a major asset for them on the field, but of course, COVID's got a lot of these kids thinking more so to their future than today. Mm-hmm. And I'm not. If you are predicted as a 3rd round and up guy, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round draft pick, why are you even playing this year?
Exactly.
Unless I get maybe trying to up your draft status, but why are you playing this year? I promise you, NFL executives and recruiters and scouts don't care if you decide to sit out because of COVID or not. I promise you. Hell, they'll look at players that take money and they'll ask you, look, just don't lie to us. Did you take money or not? Players say, yeah, okay. They go about their day. Why? Because they're going to pay them to play the game. Right. So they don't really care about any of that stuff. They care about your integrity. So just don't lie about it. Mm-hmm. If you go out there and say, you know what, I didn't play due to COVID, I didn't want to take any type of risk in preparation for the draft. I also didn't want to play, get injured just in case we have a lackluster setup on the line or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're going to understand that because they're dealing with the same thing there in the NFL. Right. They're not tripping on that because you know what? They're going to be investing in you for at least 5 years. And because they're going to have to put money behind your name, hell yeah, don't play. Now, you're going to have those Joe Burrows out there who's going to be playing to up their draft status and up their draft capital. And I get that for them. But overall, hell, if you're going to first 3 rounds, don't play. Stay your butt at home. So that makes sense.